Just that in the country today, sometimes we miss politics with so many things, and that's why we've not been able to succeed in fighting terror.
And do you think negotiations will work with Al-Shabab and Al-Qaeda? Because you've just spoken about Boko Haram, but there are two other major terror groups in the world, and that's Al-Shabab and Al-Qaeda, although IS, of course, still is in Iraq, but these are the two main groups outside of Africa.
Yeah, I still have the question. It depends on the motivation of Al-Shabab and the remnant of Al-Qaeda. Now, if you look at the history of these two groups, if you see how the premise on which these people are fighting, you see there is injustice there. There is their perception also, the perception of American intervention in the Middle East, particularly Arab Israel. So there is also the perception of the way America is flaunting its power and its ideology, imposing democracy here and there. So can we disabuse their minds of all these things, or can America, cease, to do what it's doing by recommending and sometimes imposing democracy on some countries that have been theocratic and dictatorial all this while? I know they seem to be okay with their, the system they've been practicing all this while. If America is saying now, no, this is what you must practice and all that, so do you see negotiation working there? Don't you see it as an opportunity for these insurgent groups to say, okay, America, we don't want your influence at all in our territory? That's not possible. If that is not possible, and that is one thing that will actually key negotiation, because when you say you want to negotiate with these people, one of the first things they will put on the table is that, look, we don't want American influence. We don't want them we want them to hands off Middle East affair. We want them to go with their democracy or whatever. We have our own system of government. So if that happens, how will negotiation go forward? Because these are basically what they may be asking you to do. These things are not possible.
Professor, thank you so much for speaking with us.
It's my pleasure to be here again.
We'll take a break now, but up ahead,
we have to get an Iraqi government in place, and I'm optimistic that next week we should be able to get that done.
President Barack Obama eventually bears his mind on a U.S. plan of action against Islamist fighters in Iraq. Do stay with us.
Fun, inspiration, and knowledge. That's what you get from readers, writers, publishers, and the entire book world. Get some interesting reviews, events, interviews, and latest updates from the book world. The channel's book club, inspiring you one page at a time.
Welcome back. For our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world, you're watching Diplomatic Channel, and I am Amarachi Ubani. The United States seem to have been drawn into another operation in the Middle East. This time, the focus is on defeating Islamist State militants who've taken over large swathes of territories in Iraq and in Syria. During an interview over the weekend, President Barack Obama finally speaks on how the U.S. hopes to achieve this.
President Obama's strategy comes after much criticism that the U.S. had no laid-down plans on what to do in Iraq.
To discuss the situation in Iraq.
But the president said in an interview that he would explain to the American people and to the congressional leaders this week on his plans against the IS militants.
We have to get an Iraqi government in place, and I'm optimistic that next week we should be able to get that done. And I will then meet with congressional leaders on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'll make a speech and describe what our game plans are going to be going forward.
His speech will be made on Wednesday, September the 11th, the day Al-Qaeda militants flew hijacked planes into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. That event in history pulled the United States into a more aggressive global campaign to end terror. But dealing with IS, according to Mr. Obama, will not include the presence of U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq or in Syria.
But this is not going to be an announcement about U.S. ground troops. This is not the equivalent of the Iraq War. What this is similar to the kinds of counterterrorism campaigns that we've been engaging in consistently over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Have not seen any immediate intelligence about threats to the homeland from ISIL.
The United States will not be going into this mission alone. The president will be reaching out to Sunni Arab states in the region, including Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Turkey. For a couple of weeks now, the US has helped the Iraqi government with airstrikes on the IS militants in Iraq. The latest have warded them off a major dam in the western province. The U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said the strikes against militants threatening Haditha Dam are in line with the guiding principles of military action in Iraq.
No, I think the strikes that the United States took are very much in line with what President Obama said were the guiding principles of military action in Iraq.
The attack has been described as being very accurate by a leader of a pro-Iraqi government Sunni Arab tribal militia in western Iraq. Haditha Dam is Iraq's second biggest hydroelectric facility and also provides water to millions of people.
And back here in Africa, last week, the World Health Organization said it was considering new therapies for curing the Ebola virus disease. Experts from around the world have been poring over studies and experiments that may help us discover some way to either prevent the virus or stamp it out completely. One of the WHO's directors revealed one of those therapies to be the use of blood from victims who have survived the disease. Well, a new study has revealed that vaccinated monkeys have developed long-term immunity to the virus. Scientists are hoping to begin trial of the vaccines in the United States this week and to extend them to the UK and to Africa eventually. The options currently being explored by the WHO include the use of blood therapy and serums made from survivors' blood to fight the spread of the Ebola virus disease, and identified two promising vaccines that could be used to combat the outbreak.
When will there be enough vaccine to treat the whole population? This will be gradual. At the beginning, as you know, we are all, and you have heard about that, the Canadian government has made a donation of one of the vaccine to WHO, which is of 800 doses. So what will be available first is 800 doses, and then a month or 2 months later, there may be more. Likewise, with the vaccine developed by GSK, they will start with 10,000 doses, which might become available at the end of the year, then continue to produce. And as the vaccine is produced and available, it will be rolled out as it comes.
The WHO says it will be working with all relevant authorities to accelerate the development and safe use of possible vaccines in affected countries. If all goes well, then the drugs can be used in as early as November this year on healthcare workers. Experts are also discussing the availability and evidence supporting the use of novel therapeutic drugs, including monoclonal antibodies, RNA-based drugs, and small antiviral molecules.
We will have results of safety by November 2014, and after that, these vaccines will start to be rolled out in the affected country, starting with healthcare workers and other frontline staff in the affected country. So this is real. This is going into the field. This is not staying it in laboratories.
Meanwhile, scientists at the US National Institutes of Health say vaccinated monkeys have developed long-term immunity to the Ebola virus, as long as 10 months, presenting the likelihood of them being used on humans. The viral vaccine does not replicate inside the body, but it is hoped that the immune system will react to the Ebola components of the vaccine and develop immunity. The human trials have begun, with a 39-year-old woman being given the vaccine last week. The WHO said safety data would be ready by November, and if proven safe, will be used in West Africa immediately. And this is where we end the program this week.